Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! So, I'm betting on a general assumption that someone in dress clothes is mistaken for a store employee. In fact, I was actually applying for a job at this store, so I was also a guy in dress clothes, typing away at a computer console. So, double threat for being mistaken as an employee. So I was hammering away on my application, which basically consisted of me copying my information from a random job application I carried with me to copy what I hadn't memorized. And I was making alright progress. Then someone asked, "Can I ask you a question about these rabbits?" I've had rabbits before as pets, so I didn't mind giving her some information just because she asked. So I continued with my application and she continued to admire and talk to the rabbits. She asked me another few questions. As I continued, I was basically ready to adopt this pet, just from my help. As I finished applying and started to put my things away, she asked if she could hold a rabbit she was interested in. I was shocked when I told her I didn't work there. I walked up to the counter, got the attention of an employee and had them take over helping the lady. She didn't end up going for this rabbit as a pet, but she made sure to tell them I almost made a sale. I didn't get an interview, but had I got one, I had a funny story ready to tell if I had. As a security guard, I often have to deal with customers from stores. Normally, it is to get them to leave if they are doing something the store doesn't like. But on this one day, I got to tell off an impatient Karen at Ross. So for some backstory, I was stationed as security for a shopping center, and as part of my rounds when I would first clock in, I would check in with a Ross, as I was always called in to help them with stopping someone from stealing. On this particular day, the store was packed. I was talking to the loss prevention person stationed at the door, checking in to see what manager was in charge for the night and seeing how the store had been so far. Out of the corner of my eye, I see two ladies standing at the jewelry counter waiting to be helped and glaring at us. The loss prevention informs me that he already called someone to help them, but they just hadn't gotten there yet, as it was slammed and all hands were needed to ring customers out as the line was almost out the door. It was so long. As we are finishing up our talk, which was only maybe 3 minutes at most, I turned to walk out the door to finish my rounds when Karen suddenly yells towards me, "Excuse me, I need some help here," in a very rude tone. Not missing a beat, I turn around and look at her. "Ma'am, he already called someone for you." I point at the loss prevention guy. As you can see, they are swamped and the line is long. Maybe you should grow some patience and learn to wait your turn. I then walked out of the store with the biggest smile on my face and my inner customer service rep clapping at finally being able to tell a Karen off. When most people say retail, I imagine that they, like myself, think of people working in stores, restaurants, small shops, and so on. This story deals with the medical field because greeters, people staffing the information desk, receptionists, and others also deal in customer/patient/client/consumer service. Recently, I, 46 female, had to take my special needs daughter, 25 female, to go to her yearly blood labs. It is to monitor the levels of medication in her system amongst other things. Her usual lab was unavailable. There is construction happening that has closed access to that lab. So, we picked another location from the list of labs we could use. We ended up at what I think of as a hospital complex. Instead of one hospital building that is connected to the other clinics surrounding it, like the one we live near but is not on the list, this hospital consists of several buildings unconnected next to each other. They all look the same, and the actual address for this place is non-existent. We've had to go here before for another reason, and of course, in another building. Basically, unless you know exactly where your destination is, you will find yourself wandering about on an unplanned excursion. Now, the staff I have interacted with in the past, unless a medical practitioner, all wear fairly casual clothing. The only real thing differentiating them from a non-staffer, if they are not at their assigned station such as the information desk for example, is that staffers wear an ID on a lanyard. So I picked a random building. Its outside sign had pharmacy listed, so I thought perhaps the lab would be nearby in said building. I got in and no one was there. No helpful information desk. No map saying you are here on the wall. Just a small coffee/snack shack and 2 signs on the wall. One listing in small print providing which floors housed which providers, and the other sign much larger with pharmacy and an arrow on it pointing in a vague direction near a hallway that was partially hidden. I didn't bother with the coffee/snack shack because I doubted the one person working it wouldn't know. Also, they were already serving a couple of customers and I didn't want to risk wasting any more time than necessary on finding the lab. At this point, I was sighing with frustration. I was in a time crunch and my daughter was getting antsy when 2 older women approached me. I'm assuming they too were also a daughter/mother pair, ages maybe 50s for the younger one and 70s for the older one. The younger one was either desperate or didn't register that I wasn't wearing a staff ID. Either way, she approached me and inquired if I knew where the pharmacy was. I told her I didn't, but I pointed to the sign indicating where the pharmacy should be. She thanked me and proceeded to head that way. Out of desperation and the mindset of "you won't know unless you try," I asked her if by chance she knew where the lab for drawn blood was. I was quite surprised that she did. She then sweetly gave me directions, which of course was the next building over with nothing outside of it to indicate there was a lab inside, and then proceeded to take who I presumed to be her mother to the pharmacy. All in all, it was a win-win situation. I grew up in a solid working-class town without a lot of wealth. The very few wealthy people worked in a bigger city 25 or so miles down the road, and mostly sent their kids to private schools in that town. However, we certainly mingled and played with the kids during the summers and so on. Football is king in my part of the country. Our high school programs play in front of thousands. It is table talk year-round, and youth football starts at early as 6 years old. We played in backyard schools all the time. I always had a football in my hand and was generally a highly regarded player in my neighborhood. However, there was one kid who dominated us. His name is Mike the Fourth. Yes, he was a fourth. He was one of the rich kids, and he was seriously 6 inches taller, faster, and stronger than the 8th grade boys while he was still in 6th grade. He went to the private school, so outside of neighborhood football, I only competed against him in track and field in the spring. But we saw him all the time, and he was a bully to all the kids. The force was always talking down to the rest of us poor pieces of crap, throwing our stuff in a creek near the field we played in. Anytime we had success against him, he would claim one of us was cheating, beat one of us up, or whine and walk away. During the regional and state championships in middle school track, he beat me both years in the 100 and 200 meter runs. We finished first and second at every meet. Once we moved to high school, football ramped up big time. Now we were preparing to play high school ball for our school in our town. We all assumed Mike was going to continue to play at the private school he had attended. Much to our dismay, there was Mike in full pads on our first day of football practice our freshman year. It was then that I found out why Mike was so much bigger slash better for his grade level. Mike was pretty old for being a freshman. He had an October birthday, while mine November. Not much older, you say, except the cutoff for starting kindergarten was September 30th. We have both missed that cutoff when we were little, except my parents enrolled me anyway. My birthday was November of 84, while Mike's was October of 83. So I thought. We also found out Mike had failed 3rd grade at his private school and had to repeat. His birthday was actually in 82. He was 25 months older than me and we are competing at the same grade level. No wonder he was so much bigger. That slightly worked against him, because the Catholic Athletic League had rules about age limits in their high school sports. So Mikey had to go play with us poor kids at the public school in high school. Freshman year, Mike makes the varsity as a backup quarterback, and I'm relegated to junior varsity. His ego really stepped up then. He was a freshman playing varsity in a town where football is king. In addition, he got his driver's license and a new Camaro. Also, he was the only rich kid at our school. I envied yet hated him so much. He was always reminding us of our place in the social world and constantly making quips about having to walk, ride bikes, go to Goodwill, and so on. The next summer, Mike spent at various football and speed camps. Us poor kids just play ball. Sophomore year comes and Mike is a starting quarterback, but I'm his best wide receiver. Mike truly was a great passer, but his athletic superiority over the rest of us is diminishing as we start to mature. We both got all-state honors, finished the season 13-2, while losing in the state semifinals. Mike is starting to get noticed as a potential college quarterback. His head gets bigger. Junior year comes and Mike tries to become a team leader, but his arrogance and constant belittling wears everyone down. I am now a solid 6'3" and look at Mike eye to eye and faster. We both get all-state honors again, but we finish 7-4 with an early exit in the playoffs. Mike is furious about the horrible players he is surrounded by. I'm also starting to get some recruiting letters. Spring of that school year, our longtime football coach became ill and chose to retire. The school district brings in a new coach with an entirely different offense. No more drop-back passing, but rather a primitive form of what we see today in American college football. A mobile quarterback with lots of options. Prior to the summer, the team met with our new coach and he laid this out to us with some suggestions on how we can utilize the summer to prepare for our senior season. Mike was super mad about this, all because it didn't suit his style of play. His family tried to sue the Catholic Athletic League from his former private school about their policies, so he could play there, but that didn't work out. His family then tried to move to another city to play in their school, but they had missed the deadline. He was stuck. He spent the summer traveling to various football camps around the region to raise his collegiate status. These camps are essentially a college tryout in front of college coaches. I spent the summer with a plan to finally beat Mike and become the quarterback. I had talked this over with our coach and he told me the best quarterback will play in the fall. I worked in the same field of our youth the entire summer with various other players practicing the playbook we had been given. Mike was trying to improve his footwork while the rest of us were learning the playbook. Summer ends and we begin full practice. This was the first time I had seen Mike all summer, and he crapped a prick when the coach told us to separate into groups and I walked into the quarterback group. I was now the bigger, stronger, and faster one. I had been practicing all summer, and I had done so with our teammates. Given his status as a two-time All-State quarterback, he was granted the starting role, but it was obvious who was better on the field. I easily played the role of wide receiver, but maintained the backup quarterback role. I was not happy about it, but it changed after we lost our first game. Mike didn't comprehend the playbook so well, was horrible at his option reads, and generally sucked. Our second game started with Mike getting crushed by a sack and fumbling that lead to a touchdown for the other team. He was not injured at all, but the head coach insisted he sit out the series to recover. I took over as quarterback and never gave it up. I was pretty iffy passing those first few games, but the game started to become easier for me. We rolled off 14 straight wins until losing in the state finals. I was all-state at quarterback and Mike was a pinch warmer. All of his recruiting dried up. I accepted a full scholarship to the university down the road and got to play in front of crowds of 100,000. I had moved back to wide receiver and had a pretty solid career there. I was nowhere near NFL talent, but got to travel to bowl games and was generally a hometown hero as a poor boy who went to the big school and played on ESPN. Many of my friends from college played on Sundays, and I'm pretty sure one of those will be wearing a yellow jacket as an inductee to the Hall of Fame. I think most of these things would have happened had I not wanted to beat Mike at quarterback, but Mike's life would surely be different. While not playing dried up his major Division I offers, he still had plenty of interest from smaller colleges. This did not sit well with him. He decided to replay his senior year at a private school several states away. His family sent him to a private boarding school in Pennsylvania, which had no age limitation rules, where I understand he was absolutely miserable. Here, he was a poor kid and almost 20 years old at that in high school. From there, he went on to play junior college football and ended up walking onto the directional school in that same state. He never played there and returned to our hometown to take over his daddy's car dealership. I stayed in the same town as my university as a financial planner for a mentor I had met in college. His grandson had competed against him throughout our younger years. He had followed my entire athletic journey, and he was very proud of the local boy. He was a big name in the community and had taken me under his wing when I first stepped onto campus. John stepped away from the business a few years back and left me with his entire life's work on the condition I have a position for his grandkids/great-grandkids should they choose that line of work and have a college degree. I am not entirely sure what happened to Mike. He sold the dealership, but his house had gone into foreclosure. He was married with kids, but they moved. I hope he was humbled enough to no longer be a piece of crap. But perhaps I'll never know. You'll always be a piece of crap to me. This happened a couple months ago. To set the scene, I, 19 male, was walking through the supermarket to grab some beers and snacks. I was dressed in a dark blue shirt, so I see why he mistook me for an employee. This middle-aged looking man dressed like Jerry from Rick and Morty approached me and demanded I go get him his groceries and shoved his groceries list at me. I tried to say I don't work here, but before I could say the word work, he said, "Go do it. All you lazy employees say the same thing." I hand him his grocery list back and go to walk away when he very aggressively grabs my shoulder and spins me around. To combat this, while still spinning, I get a punch/palm square on his nose. The palm wasn't super hard, but he exaggerated it by going backwards into the shelf, knocking everything over. He screams, "Assault!" and quickly dials 911. Skip to when cops arrive. He starts immediately saying how, when he's politely asked for some help, I suddenly got hostile and punched him. Cops look at the camera footage, which unfortunately have no sound. At the angle we were at, it appeared as though he had only tapped me on the shoulder. One of the officers went to put me in handcuffs, as it appeared that I hit him very hard. Luckily, he had squeezed my shoulder hard enough that it had left a pretty good mark. I showed this mark, but the officers looked skeptical. I asked him to look closer at where his finger entered the frame. and you could see that he grabbed and spun me around. You could see color drain from his face as he realized he was screwed. The cops didn't arrest him unfortunately, but they did chew him out pretty good. After that very long encounter, I finally went home and enjoyed some fun times with my buds.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.